Hey y'all, Natalie here today, and I have the July color kits from Shimmerz, and it is a super fun kit. This might be one of my favorite ones so far. So the colors include Caribbean Sunset Spritz, Mandarin Mai Tai colorings, Frog Get Me Not vibes, Green Olive Shimmers, and There She Rose Again Shimmers, which is a new color. There's also this awesome cut file which says Here Comes the Sun, and it's in this like retro font, super cool. There's also a great set of dots and a set of paper poppies that you can see up there on the right. So I cut that out with my Cricut on some smooth white cardstock, and I'm going to sit it over this picture of a sunset, and yeah, that's going to be my photo for the page. So I have some clear gessoed basil white cardstock, and I am just using this large roll of foam tape as my circle guide, and I am using my X-Acto knife to cut out the circle. And it's a little wonky, but you know me, that's okay. Pretty rustic. So I'm actually going to trim off the edge of the circle because I want it to be able to peek this striped paper through the circle just a little bit. And so that's kind of what it's going to look like. We're going to work on the border right now. So I am going to use a Monstera leaf stamp and a palm frond stamp. And I'm using Versamark ink, and I'm just kind of stamping it around the border, making sure that it runs off the edges at some points and changing the direction of the stamp. And I'm going to emboss all of my stamping with this white heat embossing powder. And we're going to do an emboss resist technique here on the border. So I always just like to make sure I put my powder up before I use my heat gun, just so that no weird thing happens and I don't like accidentally heat it up in that tray or on my glass mat. I don't know if that could happen, but yeah, I'm not going to figure it out. So isn't that so satisfying to just watch it, shoop, magic, turn into something else. And so now I'm going in with the palm frond, again, doing the same thing and actually overlapping it in a couple spots. Covering it in that white powder and then setting it with my heat embossing gun. And this is dry. As soon as you set it, just make sure you let it cool off because it will still be a tiny bit gummy until it is fully cooled. So you can kind of see those shiny images, and they're going to resist the paint. So there we have the cooled heat emboss background. I'm just going to add water first and then spritz the forget-me-not. I'm not sure if it's forget-me-not or frog-get-me-not because it does kind of look a little bit like a frog. But I'm just going to spritz that all over, and then I'm going to go back in with the other green color and add the darker shades. And since I was kind of letting it run off the edge of the page, I just set it on top of a paper towel just to kind of make cleanup easier since it has a giant hole in the middle of the page. Yeah, so I'm just working with that, letting it run around the page. So now I have two different variations of colors, really technically three, because when they combine, they form a new color. So I'm going to do that all the way around this border, and I'm going to set it over to dry, and then I'm going to do a second layer. So I really like my colors very vibrant, and so I love that about Shimmerz. You can build up the color. So if you want a more pastel color, just do one layer, but you can add 2 and 3 and 4 layers to just make it more opaque and more brilliant. So while that dries, I'm going to use the inner circle, and I'm going to use the warm colors on it. So I'm painting a big stripe across the middle, and I'm going to use that Caribbean Sunset. That one is my favorite. It got a little too much on the bottom there, so because I have clear gesso on there, I can just wipe it up. And that is the beauty of gesso. So I'm going to have this like middle stripe going, and then I'm going to put the Mai Tai color at the top, which is that like yellowy color, and then they will combine when they meet to be like this gorgeous orange color. Yeah, super gorgeous. Love that. This ends up looking kind of like a sunset, so I'm really happy with how it looks. And then I'm going to put the new Shimmerz color, There She Rose Again, down at the bottom. And I will add a little bit more of that Mai Tai in, just because I know that the Caribbean sunset looks really bright, but actually when it dries, it's a little bit hard to distinguish between the There She Grows Again. So that's why I just added that yellow and add a little bit more orange in my page, because it is a sunset and it was very orange. The photo is a sunset taken on our vacation last year at Dolphin Island. It is apparently the sunset capital of America, which we did not know that until we went, but for real, I get it. Like, it was beautiful. Not a ton to do there, but if you like a good sunset, it's worth the travel. So what I'm doing here is I've just wet a paper towel, and I'm going around and getting the excess ink off of the kind of the plasticky embossed image. And then I'm going to add more color, but I'm using a brush so I can have better control over it. But you'll want to remove the ink off of the resist images just to avoid like a mess, because they are not going to dry. So you have that wet ink still on there. But plus, just to shine it up and make sure that the white or whatever color you decide to use image is popping through. Yeah. So this is just my second layer of green color, and I'm loving how it looks. Very tropical. I'll take this chance to say that in the box down below is a link to the Shimmerz shop. And if you mention my name when you purchase, then you will get a free gift. My name is Natalie, so just put that in there. Hop over and grab your July color kits, because they do sell out. Because that circle was not quite perfect, I'm going to rough up the edges, and I do it on both just to, go with my distressed look that I always do. And because it wasn't perfect, it helps it seem intentional. Okay, so I had that cut file is popped up on some foam, and I decided to cut around it. And I'm glad I did that. It was just too big for the inside of that circle, but I love how it looks. And you can still see basically all of the photo that I felt was necessary to see. So it looks great. So I'm going to adhere this down to the striped paper. It's from Pink Fresh Studio, but all the stripes had the same color of the kits. So I thought it was perfect. And I know I'm using like this whole piece, and like you can hardly even see it, but it's been in my stash. I've been kind of like hoarding it, so why not? I just needed that peek, and it needs to be pretty big to peek out, so it's okay. It's just paper. I can get more. So off screen, I sewed around the edge of the circles, both circles, the inside and the outside, and I sewed around the border of the square page. It just gives it another level of interest, and yeah, I'm really glad I did that. So I'm ruffling up those edges around the circle, and then I'm going to pop up that inner circle on some foam. In retrospect, I probably should have done 2 layers of foam, but that's okay. It is lifted off the page, and I will be tucking some poppies in there. So there's the photo. Since it is so in your face with the title and the photo, it doesn't need a ton of embellishing. So I'm mostly just going to use the dots, and I actually use the color kit dots as well as the something about squeezing. There's another set of dots that matches super perfectly, and it has a couple of fruits on it, so I'm going to use those as well. So I just put them kind of in a triangular pattern around the outside of the circle, and then I use a couple inside the circle, or maybe just 1 dot in the circle. And then I grab those poppies, and they're really cute, but I don't have any other black on my page. And I do normally like to have pops of black on a page, but for this beachy page, it wasn't working for me. So I just took that heavy gesso, white gesso, and I just painted over the black poppy seeds. And that worked like a charm. I let those dry for quite a bit, and now I'm just going to use Nuvo drops to kind of cover up the seeds, and I use that in orange because that's one of the colors on the page. And then I decide that I'm not going to do that yet until I'm going to adhere them down first and then add the Nuvo drops. That was the best order. So in a second you'll see off screen I also die cut a few palm fronds just as additional clustering elements. So I have the poppy and the dots and the palm fronds. So those are going to go in my visually pleasing triangle around the outside of the circle. And then I have 2 more clusters that are inside the circle for a lovely odd number of 5, because embellishing in 3s and 5s and odd numbers is pleasing to the eye. Yeah, I'm liking how that looks. It's time to stick down the photo and the title all in one. I'm using my tearaway tape because my ATG gun is like all kinds of jacked up right now. I'm not sure what's going on, and I haven't really had a chance to mess around with it. Those things are good, but also annoying sometimes. But I do like having the giant pink gun that I literally can't use because I'm a super messy scrapper. And yeah, sometimes it's just a big mess on my desk and I have to find something. Yeah, those cute little citrus fruit dots worked really well with this page as well. I'm glad I added those in. So now I'm going on to the poppies that are already adhered and adding those Nouveau drops. And those will need to dry for quite a while, but they will dry and be hard and not smudge or anything. Super fun. Unless maybe your scrapbooks get really hot. It might melt. I'm not really sure. Don't let your scrapbook get hot. Keep them in your air-conditioned house. Hopefully you have an air-conditioned house. Like I said, I have the store linked down below, and use my name at checkout to receive a free gift. I hope you enjoyed this layout and it's a little bit of an inspiration for you. We're in the midst of summer here in the US, and if you're not in the midst of summer, you can still scrap summer photos. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. Bye, y'all.